Welcome to the Fantasy Pavilion, your home for fantasy sports.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the Fantasy Pavilion, your home for fantasy sport. And we are here ready to discuss, of course, a little bit about Bahrain and, of course, preview the Jeddah GP. I'm joined by F1 Fantasy Hub host. No, I can say host now, right? Host, right? Rob, right? Big up Rob on the channel. Of course, guys, I'll have the link in the description. Great content, great breakdown on the price points, who to pick. Of course, I'll let Rob plug his channel as well. And of course, our track and F1 expert, Michael. Everyone, good evening, everyone.
All right, thanks for having me, man. How are you?
I'm great, mate. I'm glad to see you. Just glad to see you, man. It's really nice to have you on with us, man.
It's good to be back with the Pavilion boys.
Yeah, I see you've been grinding, bro. You're grinding. At least, 2 or 3 videos a week? Really good work, bro. I'm proud of you, bro.
Mate, you're one of my inspirations on YouTube. What can I say?
Nah, you're doing really well, man. It's great content. And as I say, I'll plug everything in the description. I'm really proud of the work you're doing, bro. Big up, Ismail. Thanks for coming through.
Good
night.
So we'll do a quick touch on what happened Sunday, last week. Of course, real quick, and then we'll get into the action for Jeddah. Because we have to discuss the past to know how to tackle the future. Right? So let's talk about that. Now, I mean, before we get too deep into it, let me get your thoughts on the race now. So we'll start with you, Rob. Just your initial thoughts. It was the first race. The anticipation was finally over. Talk to me, Rob. How was it for you?
I mean, I think the first race was quite what we all expected, to be honest. I think Red Bull, after what we saw in pre-season, was they look unstoppable, and there was no doubt in my mind that certainly Max and at least Perez would be in the mix for podiums and the win. So they got the 1-2, I think. From a fantasy perspective, everyone who owned them and the constructor were cheering. But I think the story of the weekend has got to be Aston Martin, right?
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, Alonso. He was in a completely different, obviously a very different car, and I think that probably filled him with a bit of confidence after a few issues he had last year at Alpine. So obviously a very popular fantasy pick, and I think that they've got the pace, they've got the car, and they've obviously got the driver in Alonso to really push for that third place in the constructors. I mean, Ferrari are already on the back foot, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're in good shape come the mid-season break in a couple of months.
Yeah, solid. Ishmael, what was the race for you? I mean, we watched it together as usual in Island Bay. But give us some, now that you had time to process and digest. It was the first race. What's your initial thoughts?
He kept his mouth shut, that's for sure. Yeah.
He had a good mouth.
No. So we only doing things positively this season. Only positive.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yeah. I mean, I usually take the first 3 races as preseason testing, to be honest, because there's so little time they get during preseason testing that the teams, their ideas and their stuff, sometimes it might be good, sometimes it might be bad, but you don't really get to fidget with the different settings and configurations until you actually get time on track, which is the practice runs, the qualifying racing. So the first 3 races for me usually I only watching this like a couple years now, right? Probably a little bit before the pandemic, right? So I mean, I'm not a great fan, but for the first few races, I usually just take it with a grain of salt because some teams could drastically improve after that. Some teams you may see have some reliability issues. Some teams may be good, and they get stuff sorted after the first 3 races. So I'm already not gonna take everything there. But again, Red Bull look dominant. They look like they continue from last season. They look like, nobody's really there to compete. Sad news is Charles has an engine penalty after the second race for using up two engines
Mm.
already. That's
No, just
that's
the
really
control
unfortunate.
units.
Yeah, but that's really unfortunate. So, but I mean, they had some good signs. I thought McLaren might not have been high on the midfield. I thought they would have been competing for like just the bottom because honestly, they had some issues they didn't fix, but it was good to see them. Williams did good for himself. Haas didn't really have quite a good showing as you would have wanted them to have, but I
Hmm.
saw some good signs. So overall, I would say besides Alpine, because they didn't really look as hot as you expected them to look. Alfa Romeo was not entirely great, but they usually be sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not there. So it's really a hit or miss with them. And well, AlphaTauri, less said about that the better. It was interesting race, so we'll see how it goes from race to race. But I wanted to be a little more competitive, a little more close. So hopefully the other teams catch up with Red Bull.
Now, before I go to Michael, now you mentioned something there, Ishmael. To me, what I liked in particular, or I think what helped, especially from a fantasy aspect for me, I like the fact that the testing was done where the race was being done. It wasn't in Spain,
Mm.
it wasn't in Italy, it wasn't in England. Then they went to the place with just 3 days left to catch this. I mean, just have Friday to know the track at least. And I think that's what helped me. And I think that was what validated the hype behind Aston Martin. Because, of course, even in football, Rob, Michael, Ismail, when there's preseason friendlies, you don't go off the hype. Yeah, okay, Millwall beat PSG 8-0, but you're not going to go now and go crazy for that for the season, right? But because F1 is so different and because they won the track and you saw what they did on the track that they're going to be using the race for, I think to me, I love that aspect. At least it was a great way from a fantasy aspect. And of course, from a F1 fan aspect to know or gauge what the performances will be like and how they will handle this set track. It was not going to be just a surprise on the Friday, Saturday. Right? Michael, what was your thoughts on the initial race?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Nothing too out of the ordinary. I think maybe Aston surprised me a bit more than what I initially thought they would do and would deliver. So I mean, big props to them. Um, Ferrari. Mm-mm-mm.
Mm,
If it is, they took say 5 steps forward last year. They took 10 steps backward this year because it's the first year of the season, and they nearly end up like Red Bull last year. But maybe it could be a stroke of good luck because you had last year both Red Bulls DNFing in the first race last season, and then look, they came and ended the season as the constructor winners as well as the drivers champions. So um, maybe it's things could turn around, but as it stands right now, things don't look good for Ferrari whatsoever. Um, as Ish alluded to, Charles is going to get a grid penalty for the next race because they had to change his control unit, which is basically the electronics of the engine, the brain of the engine, so to speak. They had to change that right after quali, just before the race, which is allowed. They are allowed 2 control units for the entire season, and he used the second one after in the first race weekend. So the fact that he needs another one for the second race means something is definitely wrong with that car, reliability wise,
No, well,
and
that's
they
what
can't
caused the
keep going
DNF,
like that.
right?
Yeah, that's what caused the DNF. Yeah, but and that's the sketchy part about it because I mean they changed it right before the race. So it was a time crunch, so maybe something didn't wire up properly, whatever. But it's still a concern because if they allow 2 for the season, and some teams will go the entire season without having to go over the allowed limits of control units, and after your first quali session, you need to change one. That tells me something is definitely wrong. Because if this is supposed to last 10 to 11 races and it can't last one, something is definitely wrong. Um, Moving down here to Aston, really impressed by them. I'm not gonna touch too much on Red Bull because at the end of the day, what is there to say? They just and as a Mercedes fan, that hurts, but it is what it is. But I'm happy to see Aston where they are because it tells me that the Mercedes engine is good enough. The engine itself is good enough. Maybe not the aero package that we have. Um, but yeah, it was a good race. I enjoyed it. A couple interesting points, especially that Hamilton Alonso battle around the 3/4 mark of the race. That was really entertaining and fun. It had us going crazy in Island Bay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty exciting, and I'm just really glad to see F1 back.
Sure. All right, so let's just take a quick gander. You hear me good, right? Just take a
Ju-
quick gander
yeah, just
at
one thing I
mm,
wanted to ask Michael.
mm.
When we was doing the last pod, he said the the provider team don't usually get beaten by the team they provided to.
Yeah, but
you
every
Mm-hmm.
you sticking by that?
I mean, it's a long season, so you never know what happens. Um, so we'll see where things go. Because at the end of the day, how I see Aston Martin, it is all about Lawrence and Lance Stroll. Because think about it. Lance is in F1 because his dad paid for his seat originally when it was um Force India. Then he bought him a Formula One teams to keep his son racing. He's still back. He still owns the Formula One team and is investing billions in it to keep his son racing. He's so far partnered with him with two multi-time world champions. So clearly, this man has a plan for his son. So as much as Alonso is the golden boy for Aston right now, I think later down the line, um, I mean not Stroll, Alonso could get a rude awakening that as much as yeah, you're winning races or your podium and etc., you're still not the number one priority of this team. And that could be a rude awakening for him, or maybe they have an agreement that Alonso is allowed to get one more shot at the championship with the Aston Martin before we prioritize Lance. You never know.
No, they might
But
give him the first year, and then
yeah, they
after
might
that,
give him the first year and then tell him after that your focus is developing Lance. But
yeah.
we'll see how that goes.
I think though, like for a team that's been so mediocre for so many years, though, it would be stupid of Stroll to
To do that, I agree. It
completely
would be.
write off Alonso after 12 months and prioritize his son. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
awesome result for Lance Stroll, like sixth place with two busted
Yeah.
wrists, hardly any
Mm.
testing.
True.
He's only gonna. I would say he's definitely gonna get better as the season goes on in a car that is easily at the moment top three in my opinion. So it's I don't think Stroll is probably going to be prioritized over Alonso. To your point, Michael, initially, but I think the gap will certainly close over the course of the season, given that Stroll is also he's in a decent car, and
That is like
you put any average driver in a good car, and they're going to certainly be in the mix for podiums most weeks.
true. And I think my thing with Alonso too is that there's a lot more to come from him in the sense that this is his first time racing with Aston Martin, so he's still gonna get accustomed to the car, the inner workings of the team. So give him 5 races, and he's going to be 10 times better than he was in this first race. So I think that is going to also solidify his gap to Stroll, but also put him high up the grid.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. For that for sure. No, Rob, are you superstitious, Rob?
Am I superstitious? That depends what you're asking about, Jared. Why?
Well, you should know where you're coming from with this, right? So, the legend states, legend has it, that whoever wins the first GP, right,
Doesn't
is
win.
cursed not to. And we saw it really bad in the first one last season because it was Ferrari's own to lose. Ferrari were ahead, grinding, doing well. As Michael pointed out, we had the DNFs to Red Bull at the start, and then look how they came. Look for, I mean, from the Caribbean. I won't say we superstitious, but we have we lean. Michael, we inclined when
Yes,
there's a
we do.
pattern, right? When there's a
When
pattern,
there is a pattern.
right? So Rob, I mean, oh gosh, we go based on facts, of course, and what happens on the track. But you think I know it's early, but I just want to ask you, Red Bull, that's it, foregone conclusion, or Alonso has something to say?
I think had Leclerc not been down 25 points to Max after the first week, it would be a different conversation. But it's they pretty much gave up what 50, 70 points or some like huge margin last year, and if they gave that up, I doubt that they'll even be able to claw back 25. So I'd say it is a foregone conclusion. Max is in the best car, is the best driver on the grid. There's almost no doubt in my mind he wins it again this year, which is going to be, I think a lot of people will argue it will make for a little bit of a boring season. But I mean, I'm also just as intrigued with all of the subplots with Aston Martin, and then whether Mercedes can pull together a car that is competitive. And we saw last season that they didn't really have that until the second half of the year. So, there's those guys, and then obviously the rookies, another one, and McLaren's obviously in the mud right now. So I'm definitely obviously interested to see what it looks like at the top of the leaderboard, but given it seems very much one-sided, I'm kind of trying to redirect some of my attention towards other interesting facets of the grid this year.
All right, so let's take a quick look at all the race finish, and then we'll dive into Jeddah, of course. Now, I really can't remember our predictions. Anybody was close? You remember, Michael? Israel, anybody was close at all?
Max, Charles, Checo, I believe.
That was yours.
If Charles didn't DNF, it'd be different. But I believe
Right.
you had Alonso.
Yeah, I had Alonso for sure. I know that. I know I had Alonso in there for sure. I had Alonso.
I
for
think-
sure.
I
It might
think
have
mine.
been Max Alonso. I know Shaw you had in the middle.
Yeah, I know I had Max and Alonso, but I can't remember. I think I put Sainz.
Yeah.
I put Sainz. Yeah, I think I put Sainz. Right. So of course, let's come down from 10, because 10th is where it is important, right? We don't care about anything else other than 10th, because this is a fantasy show, so we only care about the point. Right.
As soon as I watched that, before I even reached the 10th, George Russell a bit low there, boy.
Yeah, but that's all right. He's not doing what he did last season where he was podium and stuff. But I think he only came fifth last in the first
Georgie
race,
Porgy.
He came fifth in the first race. I don't think he
He
podium in
came
the first
fifth
race.
in the first race. Yeah.
And it's after he started. Yeah, but remember his
And
track
at the end of
record was
the
top
day,
5.
it's the first race. Give him man a chance.
Give him a blind. Give him a blind.
It was the first.
So,
For the-
Lance
for the
Lance
first
Stroll
half
and
of
his
the
two broken
season.
wrists is fine.
No, well, that's a whole different. No, I'm glad you bring up that, right? But we'll talk about that later on. I don't really want to dive in, because I think we talked on that area. I find that was a bit irresponsible and weird. But
Of the
Let's-
FIA and of
Yeah.
Aston Martin, I completely agree,
I
sir.
find that was strange to put someone. I mean, I'm no doctor, but I mean, I'm in the medical field, and to go on for what they have to go through as drivers, the physical stuff that they have to go through while they're driving. That no. Under that
Yeah,
pressure,
and no, I mean, and they stated that a doctor cleared him for what he needs
Yeah.
to do, whatever. But after I saw, I think it was FP1 footage of him trying to turn the steering wheel through turn
Couldn't.
1 with the right hander, and he had to be pushing it with his palm. And when it is his engineer was like compromised turn 1 to get a better exit on 2, he verbally said, "I can't do it because of my wrist."
Yeah.
And I think at that point, Aston Martin and the FIA more so should have stepped in and said, "Yo, this is unsafe not only for the driver, but for the other drivers on track." I mean, thank God nothing happened this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, not this weekend, but weekend gone. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. Mhm.
But I think is really irresponsible, and maybe things could have gone a lot worse if things were different. But
Yeah.
hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
As I think I saw a tweet, we'll allow a driver to race with a broken wrist and pins in his wrist, but we won't allow a black guy to race with a nose piercing.
No, the pins could only be in your wrist. It can't be in your nose.
Yeah, apparently so.
Lol. But maybe he needs the black knob is funny in the maxis. That's what you need there, Michael. If you get one of those, you'll be real bad.
For sure, that will be lit.
Right, so our top 10, ladies and gentlemen, we have Alexander Albon. Big up. I know why I clapping for that. Of course, Ismail, you know
I
why. Big up.
clapping too.
Big up
I
Albon,
clapping
boy.
too.
I'm
Albon,
so
boy.
glad for Albon, right? Pierre Gasly as well. Big up. These are guys that did not have a stellar season last season. So I'm so glad that they started off well. Now, of course, starting well means nothing, Rob, because Valtteri had a great start last season and then all
No,
right,
Just got
so
but
off
at the
his
end of the
planet.
day, there were some seasons where William would have killed for a point.
correct,
Yeah.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. And let's
So
be
It
real, Williams in form. Williams doing okay. Williams doing
not
okay.
not only that, it had parts. It had seasons where Williams went with 0 points for the entire season. So to start the season with 1 point, it's an amazing start for them.
I would
Yeah.
have quote Gunther Schneider, but I don't feel like this isn't PG or rated enough for that quote.
Right. And then of course, big up Valtteri Bottas, right? Number 8. George Russell in 7th. So 2 places down from where he would have finished last season.
Yep.
In this race, sorry, in this race. Lance Stroll, big up Stroll, the Bionic Man, right? Of course, we do know surgery may have improved his driving. I don't know, but brilliant. All of a sudden, top 6, not bad at all. Lewis Hamilton, 5th. Carlos Sainz represented Ferrari well after the DNF to his teammate Sergio Perez, 2, and of course the defending champion Max Verstappen. Big up Alonso. I think that's the big headline here. All of you all touched on that in your
Yeah.
intros. Big up Alonso. I just so glad for him, and this shows what he could do in a car with a bit of speed, with
With
something,
potential, yeah.
with some oomph, right? A car with some oomph. Because
So,
yes, man.
I mean, when I finish your point,
Yeah,
but
no, I'm just saying, like, to me, I mean, I don't want to be that guy, Rob and Michael and Ish. I don't want to be that guy, but I think anybody in the Red Bull will do what Max is doing. Or that's a irresponsible statement.
no, well, as Rob said, right? I think it was Rob. Anybody in that kind of car, any decent driver, would do well, right? And then remember, even though we may see their talents as miles off of each other, right? There are only 20 drivers in the world
Mm-hmm.
that are doing this every week.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they're there is not because Lawrence paid for it. Lawrence can pay how much he wants. You know, if Lance wasn't somewhat talented at some point,
Correct.
you know, I mean, Nikita Mazepin may disagree with me, but at least all of them, you know, have some level of talent. So, yeah, I think what you're saying there is right. But what I wanted to touch on was Pierre Gasly. Personally, for me, him ending up within points was a bit surprising for me. I didn't really think he had such a good weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it's a bit early, of course, and we're only speculating here. But like medium term, let's say short term to medium term, we don't go long term, right? So within the next 3 to 5 races, do you all expect something out of Alpine and by extension Pierre Gasly?
I definitely do. I don't know if he's going to be competing for top 5s every week, but he was on track for at least a Q2 before he had that track time deleted in qualifying. So I almost think the Alpine flew under the radar a little bit last week. Obviously, the 2 points is a great result for the first race, considering the circumstances. But after what we saw in pre-season, where they looked so far behind the 8 ball, and for Gasly to turn on the Jets last week from 20th to 9th, Ocon, he finished P9 in qualifying, I believe, and that had he not completely butchered his race with time penalties, he more than likely would have probably been in the mix for points too. So I wouldn't say they were sandbagging pre-season, but I would certainly make the case that what we saw before Bahrain was not what we're probably going to see in the next few races. I would almost make the case that Gasly is not essential from a fantasy perspective, but he offers certainly an alternative to Stroll if you're not willing to put all your eggs into the Aston Martin basket.
Yeah.
Solid. All right,
what do you guys think? Do you reckon they're off the pace still, or they're content? Contend for points.
I think there's some improvement to be done, but definitely I would put them as the fifth fastest team. Red Bull being first, um, second being Ferrari, because I mean on pace they're good. Their fourth right now is reliability. I'll put Aston Martin third, Mercedes fourth, and I'll give Alpine that fifth place as relates to car. Um, I'm think if Ocon didn't butcher the race the way it did, he would have definitely finished in the points. So for Gasly to do what he did, again another driver like Alonso trying to get accustomed to the team, get accustomed to the car. So you give them some time in the car and with the team, and they're gonna do a lot better. And as I said in the last show, um, it is great for Gasly because he's in a lot healthier environment being at Alpine as opposed to being at Red Bull slash AlphaTauri. So I think there's just a lot more to come from Ocon, from Gasly and the Alpine team. And I think as the season progresses, because I think they have some upgrades coming in like the fourth or fifth race. So once those come on in car, I think they should be a lot better.
Yeah. So I myself, but I wouldn't lie, I was very shocked because of course we were watching the race and there was no inclination during the race and all that hey, Gasly's in it, and then all of a sudden, bam, Gasly
He's
was
up
there
there,
in
yeah.
amongst. Yeah, it
I
was.
think
Yeah.
it could just be the track too that the Alpine struggles at um the track at that track. So maybe on different tracks they're gonna improve because if it is we think back to Turkey, the Alpine was a rocket ship around Turkey last year in the hands of Ocon. So if it is, I mean, if it is stuck or they stayed on the same plane and they go to Turkey with that, they should be able to do pretty good. So I think it was a combination of Ocon's bad luck with all the penalties, and then the track that they were at, and then at the end of the day, it's the first race of the season. They're getting back in the groove, just like how they claimed this would have been the month of all carnivals, but everybody trying to remember how to do carnival. Um, but so yeah, I think give them two, three races, and Alpine will be for performing a whole lot better.
All right. Now speaking of performing, good performance, I have to, after some humble pie boy, Rob last week, I asked the panel to create a team, right, to come up with a team. So I use one of my account, my slots, and this is the channel's team, right? So every week
Okay.
I'll ask whoever the panel is to create a team. This is the team they created. Now I was not in agreement with it, but they scored 252 points, right?
What didn't you agree with it at the time, Jared?
So at the time, I was on the fence with the whole Hulkenberg and Pierre Gasly. For me, I thought that they were better, cheaper assets out there. But I had to hold my tongue because Hulkenberg did great in qualifying, of course, and
Hmm.
then Valtteri did well in the race overall, and Pierre Gasly good in the race overall. I was
Mm.
okay with the constructors; I had no problem with it. But I don't know. I just find the team wasn't aggressive enough for me because I was going. I'm playing a little more aggressive this season than I usually would. So just for me. But I hold my hands up. Brilliant start. I mean, I know some people already have 300 points and whatnot, but to start with
But
the
that's
courtesy
only people that
200,
play the wild card
yes,
and well
yes,
those kinds of things on the
the
first go.
chips, right?
Yeah,
So of course we would have doubled Max, George, and then of course you had Pierre, Valtteri, Nico, and you had the two best constructors right now on the field, right? So I couldn't go wrong at all there with that. I wanna shout you out. So when we get to previewing Jeddah, we'll of course have you all fix up the team and edit the team accordingly, right? So of course we have our league for the channel. We have.
just
Mm-hmm.
Jared, before you go on, I just wanted to ask Rob. Rob, seeing that they changed up the format of everything this year, and this year we have two constructors to go with. What is your approach? Are you going more aggressive with your constructors? Are you going more aggressive with your drivers, or how are you playing it to really balance? Or are you just trying to balance it off? Because I think with the changes that they made to the fantasy, you have a lot more options as to how you want to play the game. If it is you want the best drivers and then cheap out on the constructors, or vice versa, or just play it safe and try and balance out the two. But I love that ability to choose the type of game you want to play.
I agree completely. I think they needed to make a few changes after last season, and I think they got all, in my opinion, they got all the changes and updates spot on. The only problem that I still find with the game is that certainly Aston Martin and Red Bull were way underpriced after what we saw in testing. But as far as, and that I'll get onto in a second, but I think as far as like chips and how the scoring is weighted this season, I think they're all very positive changes. I guess going back to the pricing though, I have concerns that the template is going to be pretty like common throughout for the first few weeks. And the only thing that's really going to separate us in the next few races until we see some form from Ferrari or Mercedes is that budget driver, because a lot of people have triple Red Bull and triple Aston Martin. And yes, at the moment, they are the two best fantasy teams and assets to own. But I would want to see some
diversity.
Yeah, I would. I really would. And that's what makes it difficult, when, you're tweeting about, asset like drivers and constructors and making content on YouTube for it. I feel like the last couple of weeks I sound like a broken record because I repeat myself so much because there's only so much to talk about when the template is so locked in. But I would love to see Leclerc, rebound. It'd be great to see, Mercedes continue to make improvements to that car. So, Russell or Hamilton become an option. And, I think Red Bull are obviously going to be too strong this season. But, just for the sake of, diversity on the team front, as you say, Michael, it would be great to have Red Bull DNF a race or two just to not only open things up from a fantasy perspective, but also in the Drivers' Championship too.
I'll reserve from commenting on that because we don't want anything there. But I think the reason why we could get away with something so templated like this is because of Aston Martin. Because, the prices are basically used off of last season plus ownership, right?
Yes, something like that, yeah.
Like, Aston Martin just come and say, okay, well, we're just going to be good this season out of nowhere, right? There was an upward trajectory, but the fact that they kind of shoot up to be in the same talk with Ferrari and Mercedes, that's just really, really good. So we're gonna have to have them there for a while, and I'll refrain from reasons why they might not be there for a while.
Is there dynamic pricing this year?
Not like last year, no. The changes happen once a week after the race on the Sunday night. So,
for that reason, I think. So the fact that the prices are still going to fluctuate, I think it's wise. I think you can still have diversity if it is you choose to. Yes, the template would be to have triple Red Bull, triple Aston, but I think as the price changes, if it is you had that template this week, it gives you a benefit for this week coming and the future races, in the sense that their prices will go up and your cost cap would essentially go up as well. And that gives you a bit more wiggle room later on in the season. Granted that Ferrari and Mercedes pick up the space and get their act together, it gives you the ability to then maybe run a triple Red Bull or a 2 times Red Bull with a Ferrari and a Mercedes at some kind of point. If it is, you could push the budget that way. So it's a bit frustrating that it is so templated that I prefer more diversity as well. But I think that's just also the nature of the sport. It's always been these are the top people, these are the middle class, and these are the bottom. And I think until it is the formula changes that gives us another full reset in 2026, that's just what we kind of have to accept for now.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not much we can do about it. I think I've kind of talked about this on Twitter before, is that the game launched a week before the first race, and unlike FPL, I won't talk about FPL for too long, but they launched their game a month in advance to advertise and hype it up and get more people in the door. And F1 really could have done that if they the whole reason they were supposed to launch the game after preseason testing was for those prices to make sure they were adjusted accordingly. And all of the Aston Martin guys are probably like 5 to 10 million under budget. So if they were going to keep them as kind of what we saw last year for the Aston Martin assets, then it would have made sense then to release the game a month ago. So then we can advertise, how great it is on our channels and whatnot. But,
Agreed.
they've done, like I said, though, at the start, they've made a lot of very positive changes, but this is one that probably hurt the most, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I have a problem with the time that we get our points, bro. I have a problem
The
with that.
updates, yeah.
I have a problem with that. That's my big beef with the app. Because to me, with Play On, at least with Play On, you could have gotten a live update, and it was better for when we do no live watch alongs. I could have said, well, all right, bam,
Hey,
see
my
the
team
mine
winning,
this.
yeah.
All right, doing good, I have this amount of points, but now we have to wait all the way to. So maybe someone has to make a, like how there's live FPL, someone has to make a live F1. I don't know, because it's really is tricky, especially for content or someone who's just obsessed with points and need to know the progress of how things are going. I like to know. I could look at it, right? Whew.
Yeah, I would too. I think everyone would. That was a big gripe that a few people had last weekend, and I don't have the technical nous to create a website like that. I'm sure there's someone out there who could, but that, keeps the player base engaged over the entire weekend and not just at the deadline and when the points come in.
Exactly.
Unlike FPL, when there's so much to talk about with bonus points or with who's getting the goal or the assist. In F1, like you say, we don't have anything to talk about until the end of the weekend, which it's a bit frustrating at times because sometimes I can't help tweeting about it on a weekend, but that's just kind of what we're faced with at the moment.
And what I also missed too is the streaks. I think it was a really nice feature. But yeah, I definitely missed the streaks as well because it gave you that perspective as to who's quote unquote on fire. Aside from once you're paying attention, but I really like that feature as well.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think I was. I was a fan of it, but a lot of people were devastated when it got removed. I think the best thing about it, not just the bonus points, but the fact that it encourages you to change your team and mix it up when there are drivers that are lower owned on streaks. And there were a number of races last year where Lewis Hamilton wasn't a very highly owned driver, but when he was on his double streak, everyone who was paying attention to the game was sure to trade him in. So
yeah,
it to your point, it's it shakes the template up a little bit, which I guess we may not see as much of this season.
Yeah, because at this point, if it is you focus on this team that you have here, it's pretty safe to keep this team for the entirety of the season, unless say Aston dips in performance at some point. The most you might do is just swap out Joe for somebody else who might be performing better, and that kind of thing. But it's gonna leave a lot of people just doing template teams a lot.
Yeah, I agree. It's I do love the fact that you would take a punt on someone like Russell or even maybe one of the Alpines just because of the fact that they were on a qualifying streak or a double streak. So it's I'm not sure. I think again, I hate to keep harping on about FPL, but there was a pretty solid template at the start of the season in game week 1, and a lot of people own the same maybe 7 or 8 assets for the first few weeks, but after a month or so there were fixture changes or whatever it might be that caused people to mix them up. And so we might have a template for the first 4 races or 5 races, but to your point, Michael, the form, teams might dip in form, there might be reliability, there might be unfavorable grid penalties or whatever you might call it. I know Gasly, for example, he's got 10 penalty points, so he may miss a race entirely, which
that is a big risk for him. He has to play it really safe.
Yeah, so that they are some examples, but I don't think there is, as of right now, enough reason for me to see people willingly want to change their team unless they want to get seriously ahead or pick differentials.
I think
we'll probably see variation depending on how these two teams, these constructors, do with different types of tracks. Because remember, certain tracks with more straight, certain tracks with more corners, certain teams do well. Red Bull kind of was just overpowered last season where it didn't matter. But we haven't seen the test for both of them this season, and especially Austin. we don't know how they'll do on different types of tracks. So we'll see.
I think it doesn't matter for Red Bull. Red Bull is dominant, and that's
Yeah, Red
that's
Bull
just
is
the
kind
plain
of
fact. They're
yeah.
just that far ahead, but I think it's Aston. Aston is who is gonna be the main question because remember we had that point last year whereby it was Ferrari Red Bull. So if it is you could, you would have done a triple Ferrari, triple Red Bull because you just knew, cool, that's the top two there. But now with Aston, you really have to see if it is they come out of the stable like Haas did last year and had everybody riding that Haas train. Hey, Haas is the best team, whatever this. And then after the third, fourth race, Haas was nowhere to be seen. Or the same thing happened with Alpha last year. So it's really important to watch Aston very closely to see is it that, this is start of the season luck and progression, or is it going to become progressively worse or progressively better?
I think one more point I'll make on
Mhm.
on that is this season with DNFs, if a driver, let's say a
Yup,
constructor,
it's
let's say
painful. Points for me.
for argument's sake, let's say you own Aston Martin and you own Lance Stroll, and
Mhm.
Lance Stroll DNFs, he gets a -20, and Aston Martin gets a -20, and I reckon it will take one race for that to happen, and people
Yes.
get terrified of the fact that if this happens again, that's -40 on my team,
Yeah.
Yup.
and
No, but that -20 isn't that already -40?
no.
Because it's -20 to Stroll's points, but also -20 to the
Yeah,
Aston.
sorry, you're right. Yeah, -20 for Stroll and -20 for Aston Martin would make it
So
-40, right?
there's a total -40, yeah, which is madness.
It's
That's
huge.
real pain.
Yeah, I think like it's all been wonderful the first week, but it could take one crash at Jeddah this weekend, which has a high DNF rate, for people to get frightened of having like triple Red Bull, triple
And I
Aston
feel
Martin.
like it's always very sketchy to put, as they say, the proverbial eggs in one basket. It's always sketchy, and I hate to do that. Even as much as I love Mercedes, you will never see me with Russell, Lewis, and Mercedes as a constructor because it takes one thing to happen to really screw up your race. And I think that is where we could get the diversity as the season progress, where people
Mm,
realize just how um dangerous or how detrimental to your team that DNF is. And I think, okay, maybe F1 did do a good thing by raising the penalty for your team DNFing, because it makes you really think, and it makes persons want to prioritize teams with better reliability versus
mm,
teams with speed or finishing potential.
mm. Yeah,
So I think that is where things will get interesting later on into the season as
yeah,
the wear and tear on the car starts to increase.
yeah.
For me, that just scares me in terms of budget drivers, though. Because imagine you like, okay, well, I just gonna choose between, let me say, Hulkenberg or Albon or even Joe, something like that, just because they budget. I'll imagine my budget driver costing me a -20. I will cry.
Yeah, that's it. You had to choose good on your budget driver because I mean, if it is you think about Williams, they finished every race of the season. They finished last, but they finished every race. So I mean, is to decide who you want to budget with. But yeah, that's definitely a concern and a pain to think about.
Yeah.
For sure. Um, before I touch on this team here, you all know how the pit stop ranking went? Who got the fastest? Was it still
It's
go
usually
Michael?
Red Bull, but I'm not too
I don't
sure
think
who
they did.
got
I
it this
don't.
weekend.
Yeah, I don't.
I think it was Ferrari, Red Bull,
Yeah,
Ferrari.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because it was a 2.3 or 2.2 something they got on one of Leclerc's stops
yeah.
before he
Because
DNF'd.
I mean, I have Michael as a witness, Rob. Even before they added as points, I always obsessed with the pit stop. Once it's a pit
Rob,
stop,
we will be there in Island Bay. Somebody will come in the pits, and before they drop the car, Jared will be screaming at the TV, 2.2, 2.2, 2.2. And it's like, dog. And I just there sit back watching it. It's like, 2.4, and then the time would come up 2.5, and I'm like, bro. So I know he's obsessed with the thing. So this part
Obsessed.
of the championship, he's going to be obsessed with monitoring
Nah,
the
real glad that they
entirety of
added
it.
that. And the
Yeah,
three
nice.
teams,
It's
I
gonna be
think, oh
cool.
no, yeah, three different. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So we have this gentleman here, Larry. He's the top of our league right now. So he got 307 points. He put the double on Alonso. He had Verstappen. He had Perez. He had Stroll. He had Joe. Right. So
And
not
heady
too
crazy
bad.
thing, yeah, he could have had more than 307 if he had put the double on Verstappen.
Correct. Way more.
And even more crazy thing, he didn't even use any chips. So if he
No.
did like some people and use, fine, leave the double on Alonso or put the double on Perez, who would have been the next, who would have been the second highest points in this team, and
Mhm.
then put the triple on Max. Homeboy would be like, what?
Yeah. Cruising.
Nearly 400 points
Yeah.
clear after the first race. So that's madness.
Madness, bro. Madness. Right. So I mean, so I mean, he did really. I know we saw some people who actually did use the chips in some other, like in the bigger general
In the
league.
bigger,
So
yeah.
yeah. Right. There's another guy here, Alt F1. So same thing. I just doing
The
this to
exact
show,
same team,
same
but he
thing
put the
Rob
double on
said.
Max.
Right, but he put the double on Max.
Wait,
That's
so
my
how is the points different though?
No, because he did this one has Stroll. I don't think the other one has Stroll.
No, both of them has.
no
Is the
one.
exact same team?
I'll bring
No,
this one.
they had BRS boost on Fernando, and the other
Boost
team
on-
had it on Max.
On Max.
All right. So how is the
but-
one with it on Max less points than this guy?
Yeah. What? God, was it because no? It couldn't even be qualifying. It had to be maybe the pit stop. Had to be something with the pit stop. Had to be that.
No, the
Had to be
difference
that.
is just Fernando versus Max because it was 4 points.
Right. Right, but if it is Fernando pulled in less points multiplied by 2 versus Max multiplied by 2, shouldn't the one with Max multiplied by 2 be more? If they had the exact same team otherwise?
Fernando had
Fernando had
39.
39.
Fernando had 39 and Max had 35.
Overtaken has got main clutch. You know?
Yeah, overtaken. The overtaken.
Ah, okay, the overtaken points.
the
Right,
overtaken
okay. Makes
Because
sense.
remember,
Now,
Max wouldn't have gained much for being in pole. Because
I mean, the man he had
Max
no
points.
overtaken points.
Look at his points. That's it, Watch it here. So watch his points here. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
no
exactly-
overtaken points whatsoever. The man started first and stayed first. Okay, so
Look
I
at that.
understand why it is.
Compared to that.
Yeah,
Look
okay,
at that.
I understand now. The breakdown
Yeah,
makes
look at
sense
that.
now.
And
The
drive of the
mathematics.
day. Hey, Rob, we voted
True.
padded, right? I got everyone in Ireland Bay to vote for Alonso, Rob. Rob, it's serious. Right.
That's huge. 10 points for driver of the day, which has
Come
like
on.
nothing to do with how the driver.
No, the on race, exactly. You could vote apart this, as Jared
you
said,
could vote
easily.
Latifi if you wanted to.
Oh, don't tell me, Rob. Rob, don't do it,
I
Rob.
mean, he's not there anymore, but
No.
yes. If
No,
this
but we
was
can do
that thing last
Sargent.
year,
We have Sargent as an option, right? We have Albon as an option. Rob, you know my kind of drivers. Don't tell me.
don't
Right?
start
Don't
that,
tell
sir.
me.
Do not start
But
that.
fair is fair. Alonso deserve it. Rob, do you disagree? Alonso
No, I
deserve it.
completely agree. He 100% deserved it.
Alright.
Drove his heart out.
That's the only time you would have disagreed if you said any other name there, Rob. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Nah, he deserves it. But
And then-
another, sorry, go.
Sorry,
Michael.
go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to quickly say, like, Joe had the fastest lap as well, which is another 10 points. And if you click onto him, Jared, unlike fastest lap, which gets awarded to drivers
Another
in the
10
top,
points, yeah.
in the top 10. Yeah, if you're not in the top 10 in the race, you don't get it.
You
But
won't get it, yeah.
In fantasy, it doesn't matter where you finish; you get it anyway. So that was huge for him.
Yeah.
Let's go, Sergeant. All right. I love it. That's
Nah,
fun.
this is gonna
This is
be
a
intense
nice
this year.
breakdown. You get to see. This is good. I like this. All right. So yeah, so that's our top 3. How much points you managed to mash up there, Rob? How much points you got, Rob?
I had 303. I thought I joined your league, but I haven't
What
yet.
the
so
hell?
No, I think you're in the other. No, because I took your 2 leagues. Let's take a
Right.
quick look
Okay.
at that.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
I'd joined one of your leagues, so I'm
You
in.
did.
I'm in
So
the.
this is the bitter one, right? The bitter one.
Maybe I'm not there. I haven't. I must have not have joined. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, I'll send you back.
You're along there? I'm not sure if I in this one either.
Yeah, I would have sent you this one.
Oh well.
Hey, fellas, all right, we'll send you back the code.
Nah,
We'll send you back.
no,
Look
but
at there,
not
look at there, look at there. I seen you.
where?
How do you? Right.
Where's that?
No?
What was it? Which team?
Get in there. That's not you get in there. No.
No. Oh, getting them mics. Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I know your team better than you. This is Antonio here, tied for first. Let's see what Antonio did. So Antonio, all right.
That's the team I have. I have that exact
Right.
team.
Ah, okay. All right, solid. What made you go with Joe though? Was it just pricing points, or you was comfortable with his performance
It
before
was,
pre?
yeah, I really liked what I saw from the Alphas in preseason. I thought they were the best of the midfield teams on pure pace, and I'm not sure if they're still there. They might not be in a few weeks, but I just thought he was the best driver priced 5 million or under, and he would have probably, had he not got the fastest lap, ended up with 7 or 8 or 9 points, but he lost positions when he pitted for the fresh tires at the end. So I really like Joe, but he's on the chopping block for me this week. I probably will trade him out for another budget driver, but that's the only trade I'm looking to make this week.
Very good. We're gonna talk about that in the last 10 minutes of the show. We're gonna deal with this, and then we dive in straight. I'm glad you brought up that. So, Michael, this is your segment. Well, let me just preamble it quickly. So, of course, guys, for those who still don't know anything about F1, still learning, all the newbies, first of all, I just want to thank all the FPL guys. Rob, as you see, Rob, I had to make a whole separate league. Right, we got a lot of FPL guys who've never watched any F1, don't know anything, don't even know who Lewis is. Right? Yes, but it's that serious. Right? I'm telling you. So we got a lot of people who are new and were interested to jump in. So again, I want to thank everyone for the overwhelming success and the response for joining the leagues. Hopefully next season will be even bigger and better. So of course, for those who don't know, F1 weekend always starts on a Friday, right? Except for Las Vegas, but we'll get there, right? But F1 always starts on a Friday. Of course, we have the practice runs. Let's look at the schedule really quickly. So we have the practice runs coming up on Friday. Crap. I'll bring that up just now again. But yeah, we have the practice runs on Friday, and then of course Saturday we have the qualifying, and Sunday is the big race. And thankfully, it is 1 p.m. our time. Rob, you're what? You said what? 2 hours behind us or 1 hour behind us?
I'll be back in New York come the weekend, so I'll be on your time zone.
You'll be on our time zone.
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
Right? So that's normally how it works on a regular circuit, regular track. We normally have Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. So of course, Michael, take it away and preview this one first. Now, Ishmael did make a point where different tracks, all the curves and stuff. This one, now always make joke with this. This looks like a weird knife, a butter knife or something. Has a very weird shape. But take it away, Michael. Preview it first.
So
Let us know what we have and stuff.
Jeddah Circuit, the first Grand Prix here was 2021. It's a brand new track. It's still very brand new. It is a street circuit type track, so it's very tight and narrow. It has 23 corners, which is one of the most amount of corners for the entire season. Matter of fact, it has the exact number of races we have for the season, which is pretty cool. And it's a pretty intense track. It's very fast, very narrow, so it's easy for drivers to make mistakes. So it's an intense track. So we're gonna start the lap around the track. So we start on the main straight, that is on that straight part there, and it goes down into turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. It's a lot of sweeping corners. Turn 1 is really tight. There was a battle between Max and Lewis there, whereby they fought it out into turn 1. Into turn 2, they took off the track. So that I expect to see that happening again this year. So definitely that's a place to look for things. If it is you're on the track racing, the smarter move would be to make a move into 2 as opposed to 1, because when it says you make the move into 2, you then could build your gap or secure some kind of distance into 3 and then 4, because you're not going to have somebody pelting to be inside on 4. 5 is a very long right-hander, so it's really important to get a nice entry into there. Again, this entire track is very quick, so it's important to make sure and maximize your corner entry and that kind of thing. So 6 and 7, really quick left-handers, and then into 9, 10, and that 11, 12, 13, they barely look like corners. So those are very quick. They basically just turn the wheel, not gonna lift off or anything like that. You're gonna have some.
I would just say something. Schumacher crashed on 10 and 12 the last 2 years, so
Mm.
Yeah,
I would say that doesn't look too sharp of a turn, but for inexperienced drivers, it's probably one that could cause a bit of risk. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah,
it looks can be deceiving.
yeah, 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so yeah, it's quick through there. So you really need to line it up properly because you could then hit the wall. Because as I said, it's really narrow. You're gonna have a decent amount of braking into 13, going around that long left-hander, then into the right-hander. 14, probably gonna be close to flat out. Um, Heavy braking. Well, 15 will be really quick. Braking into
Mhm.
16. 16, 17 is really tight, and then that whole section between 18, 19, 20, 21, that is very quick. It's important to know that that is a DRS zone between turns 22 and 25. So the fact that they would put a DRS zone there reminds us that you're going to have overtaking there. So it's one of the widest points of the track, and it's not straight, but it allows the drivers to use the DRS in a safe manner.
Mhm.
So again, you remember the game that these drivers are going to be playing, coming out of turn 18, going into, sorry, coming out of 16, 17. So between turn 17 and turn 18 is the DRS detection zone. For that second DRS zone there between turns 21 and 24.
Right.
So remember, they might play the game. They might take it slow out to 17 so as to let the next guy get ahead of them coming out so that they could pick up the DRS as they come out to 17 going into 18 so that as they cross to 19 they could get that DRS and zoom up there, and then heavy braking into turn 22. 23, 24 is fairly quick. They're gonna probably just lift off, coast through, and then back on the power. Then you have that next DRS zone um between turn 25 and 26. It is a long left hander. The track is pretty wide, so you're gonna have a couple guys going around the outside or the inside of each other, and heavy braking into the last corner, turn 27, and then back onto the main straight, DRS wide open to try and make up as much room. As I said, you're gonna have a lot of braking into turn one, but the safer place to make the turn to make the pass to make it stick is into turn two. So it should be a really exciting race. And as Rob said, the inexperienced drivers, it definitely be something to watch. So I'm really interested to see how it is this guy from Australia does, Oscar Piastri, because this would actually be his first time racing at Jeddah,
Mhm.
because I don't think the F2 guys raced on it last year.
Mhm.
So yeah, it would be an interesting track to see how they perform.
No, Kapil, thanks Rob, thanks Michael for the breakdown, and Rob, thanks for answering Caps. But so Caps, just to give you a quick, synopsis real quickly. So Albon DNF, Bottas DNF, Alonso DNF, but Ricardo's no longer with us. DNF, Latifi no longer with us. DNF. So Noda had some engine issues, and Schumacher did a Latifi and crashed before the race even started. So you know that's that. So that was a problem. So that is what happened there. Last time around, and of course
And
Max
here the
wanted.
spreader
Mhm.
drivers is not to say
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is top
Mm-hmm.
teams, is it was like everybody was DNFing.
Mm-hmm. It
So I
was
mean,
tight.
I'm hoping Alonso does better, but maybe that's something to consider. He didn't have luck here last year.
Yeah, yeah. But he's in a better vehicle.
True, true.
Right. And the top three last year was Max, Charles, and Sainz. All right. So let's quickly dive into the fantasy. Let's get some. Let's try and pick each other's brains here. Let's try and make a team of the week, and let's see what changes we will make for the upcoming game week. Any questions at all in the comments? Let us know. Yeah, and we'll dive into that right now. And again, I want to thank Rob, Ishmael, Michael for making the time. Appreciate you guys. I know you're a little late than usual tonight, but I appreciate you guys. All right. Okay. So I'll bring back up the same team that we that you all created, and we'll go from there. And Rob, so Rob, now that you're here, you'll have your inputs. Whoever we have on the show each week will have an input and help us out move along the team. Now we have different opinions as we roll. So now I can show you quickly my teams. You're seeing my screen, right? Yes, you are, right? So this is my team. I just made it. This was a team I made just to make a thumbnail, Rob. And I was like, you know what? Fine, keep it. So I didn't bother. But it wasn't terrible. It just Ocon, boy. Oh, gosh, way. I could allow Piastri, I could give him, I could allow him, but Ocon, if Ocon did what he normally is capable of doing, this team would have done brilliant. He would have done way better because the other three guys did well. Great constructors because of signs, of course, yes. Leclerc DNF, but it was still a solid team. And then this other one, I just created it just for creating its sake. Went with Alfa Romero, big up, of course, well, Alonso, Perez. Just went with some of the lower guys. I still believe in De Vries. I think he will do something special um, as the season comes along. Right? So let's focus more now on this team. So this is the scout pick team. All right. So Ishmael, Michael, and Rob, I'm handing over to you all. What will you all change? We've got the breakdown. We know these drivers fairly well. What will we all change for Saudi Arabia? Right? Anyone can start. What you will change?
Well,
Yeah.
the constructors, I think, should stay the same.
Agreed.
Yeah.
We starting there for sure. Constructors
All
saying
right.
the same.
Full
Because something to
agreement.
remember too, we only have 2 subs to make this time
Yes,
around as opposed to
yes,
3 last
correct,
last
correct,
year.
correct.
So you had to use them wisely.
So we in full agreement there, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody
I don't think
agrees
we're changing
constructors stay the same.
Max at
Alright.
all.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Max could stay there. I would leave Russell there as
I would
well.
leave Russell as well.
Mhm.
I would take out Hulkenberg and take out Pierre and take,
Well,
or we could play it FPL style and allow one of the we only make one change and allow the
ruling.
transfer to roll over so that next weekend we have 3 transfers to make, which again that's a great thing that they introduced. Big up them. So I mean all these different things you have to consider when it is you making transfers now. But I definitely would take out Alonso. I mean Hulkenberg, sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
it depends on who you're taking out for, right? So, I mean, Haas wasn't that bad, to be honest. So, if we go down and we see who we could afford, we could have that discussion there.
Yeah, so when you take out Hulkenberg, you will go up to 4.8. So who could we get for around 4.8?
I think like something to consider for these budget guys
Oh,
is how the
4.6.
scoring's weighted for the cheaper options. Is that for those overtakes and positions gained, you want to be qualifying quite poorly and then make up those positions when people
Yeah.
DNF. So you want to look at, if you're looking at people under 5 million, you want to be looking at those guys that qualify, that don't make it out of Q1. So from the guys under 5 last week that didn't make it out of Q1, it was De Vries and Sargent, I think. And
no,
then-
Sargent didn't make it
sorry.
past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sargent was 16th and De Vries was 19th.
Yeah.
In qualifying. So like they're 2, and they're also in 2 teams that
And that's
He missed out by a margin, I forgot.
and
Yeah, he missed
it wasn't a margin. Sargent tied with Norris.
Yeah.
And the
It was like-
only reason Norris went through and he didn't is because Norris set the time first.
Yeah.
So it's like clearly Logan Sargent has pace. So I would personally put in Sargent because it shows that he has the pace to do some overtaking. So he will start in the bottom 5 more than likely every race, or in the second half or the bottom 10. But he could definitely make up some positions or something like that. Whereas Hulkenberg lost positions because he started 10th.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not disagreeing or agreeing. This is up to y'all. If you ask what y'all going with, no problem at all. This is what you all
I mean, I would agree that we keep the one transfer to roll over and keep Pierre and Bottas.
Yeah.
I would disagree on taking out Hulkenberg. Just me personally. You all can go ahead. I'll leave it up to you 2 of you all to decide what to do.
So who would you take out then if you're not taking out?
No, you had to be in full agreement here, Ishmael. This is a democracy.
I personally believe Hulkenberg will return. No, this could be me and Udegaard at the beginning of last season, where I see the potential and I see it happening. It just might take some time to happen. So I'll abstain from this one.
No, I have
If you're like,
I
I
mean,
have
2 out of 3 is the majority, yeah. So clearly,
yeah.
we still a democracy.
Fair enough. But I have
Yeah.
a question. Is it enough? Is it enough just having the Aston Martin constructor?
That
Or do you
that
have to chase Alonso or no?
yeah, I was just about to make that point, Jared.
Come on, Rob. Make the point, Rob. Let me hear.
I mean, I don't think
either Stroll or Alonso, to be honest.
Yeah, we should. I think Alonso at least, or maybe Stroll. Like, what's Alonso 7.8? Like, do we think that Alonso in for Gasly is better or worse than say
I mean,
Sargent
Alonso
in
is
for Hulkenberg?
8.5 now.
8.5.
He's gone up.
But if we put Hulkenberg back in, for instance, and
And
just
take out Gasly, we should be
out
able to
Gasly,
afford Alonso.
yeah, with that,
I'm cool with that.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's
I
keep
agree with that as
Hulkenberg.
well.
All right, hold on.
Just add Hulkenberg back. Oh yeah, that works too.
Right. So Hulkenberg is back. We're taking also Gasly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gasly for Alonso.
We're taking out the guy that finished 10th. Right. Okay.
For the guy that
Guy
finished him,
third.
Right.
that seems to be good.
But keeping a man that finished 12th. I just asking, right? We're bringing him.
And you see how it is they ordering it. They ordering it by who raised the most
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
who's picked the most as well.
Yeah, the TSB. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's not a differential Alonso.
No.
So you're not climbing ranks. You're almost protecting your rank by getting him in your team.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So
So
this is the only,
now my
this is-
question too:
Mhm,
do we
mhm.
play a chip this weekend? Because
Mm.
what I realized, I know here why I say that. I played it safe by saying, alright, cool, I'll try and figure out the season first before using one of my chips. But clearly persons who play their chip either first race of the season or very early in the season, it pays off for them.
No, I mean,
And
okay,
that
Rob,
is where I'm
tell him.
protecting.
Rob,
Because
tell
look
him
at the
why
people
that
who
bad.
played look at the people who played their chip last weekend. They're already 300 and 400 and something points ahead.
Rob, take this one now. Tell him why that. Tell him now, Rob.
I think I think it's for me not something I will ever do in the first week. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, play your own game. That's how I kind of live by my fantasy sports. But for something like the triple, what's it called, the extra DRS boost, where it's the 3 times, you like it. I think I prefer to use it on sprint races because you've got higher upside.
You have a lot more to pay, right? Okay,
It
fair,
absolutely
right.
can pay off if you use it at the right time, and this race could be better than a sprint race if your extra DRS guy DNFs, but there's a higher likelihood of scoring points, and I'm probably going to chase the points over chance my hand with the risk. So
It's like triple captain. You go on the triple captain. I just saying you going on triple captain Mitoma this weekend, but March was the man. I mean, you just never know. March and your triple captain Casemiro, he got a red card. You don't know. So you going on all the guys that they put the chips on, they could have DNF, could have more than DNF. Big up Anna, it could have pay off. It can pay off anytime.
absolutely.
I agree. Because it does a bit of luck. Because I mean, you going on all right. Alonso, great form, or Max, great form, and then you bam, you go on a triple
Yeah,
chip or
but
whatever on him, and then
tripling
bam.
Max this weekend really wouldn't have helped it that much
Yeah.
compared to tripling somebody like, I don't know, maybe Checo, not even Checo. Somebody
Joe.
like lower down the line where
Yeah.
you know they get real points. I try to triple people where people who wouldn't double. So persons who you wouldn't necessarily
I mean,
double. I'll
Going
triple.
off the philosophy of using a sprint weekend, I think then the best thing to do is to triple somebody like Max, who you know is gonna do great,
No, but
and then
everybody got
double
double,
somebody like
so-
Alonso, who you know is gonna also do great. So that way you maximize your points.
Fair enough.
Your points in flux.
I mean, there's so many other chips that have been introduced this season too that it's very easy to overlook all of the new ones that we don't know enough
True.
about. Because I think the triple captain extra DRS boost, whatever the 3 times is called, definitely the most commonly used one, and I would say historically is one of the more effective chips to use. But the ones that I'm most interested in is the limitless one, where you have unlimited budget for 1 week. So you
Yeah,
can have Verstappen,
you could
Perez,
literally have everybody in
you
there,
can have everyone, you Hamilton, Russell, Leclerc, all in one team,
and
and it
you do
doesn't.
that on a sprint weekend. So you
I
get all
probably
the
would.
beginners.
I
Yeah,
probably would.
jeez,
Yeah.
and ages.
So
And
And then
imagine
what I
if you
also
could
like is
predict
the
the
chip
top five.
whereby you can make changes after quali just before the race.
that's the final fix, and you can make one change to your
Yeah.
team. So
It's
if
like
Which
Champions
is
League.
good because
Yeah.
if it is something like that happened and persons had Joe, they might have decided to take Joe out and put somebody who started in the top 10 or something like that
So
who
yeah,
finished
question,
higher. So if it is you
question.
didn't have Stroll and you could have afforded it, it makes sense. So I honestly like the new chips too.
yeah. The most to answer Kapil's question, the most
Thank you,
powerful
Rob.
one has to be limitless though, because that's
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
one where you have the most flexibility with your budget and the most points upside as well. So
Yeah.
that would be my take on the
And
most.
my only wonder is can you use the limitless and the three times on the same weekend?
I
Because
don't
if
think so.
I don't
you
think you
don't think
can.
so,
No.
I don't think you can use them on the
you
same
can only
weekend.
use one chip on a weekend.
Like
Yeah,
FPL, yeah, you couldn't use your
Okay.
triple captain and your free hit.
Otherwise, I think the guys who did the same thing, they would have done all that on once.
True. No, but then, but
you're
that's the
gonna be
nice
on a
thing. You
thousand
have
points already.
multiple. But that's the thing. You have a lot of. You have what 6 sprint weekends here? I
Yeah,
think it's six
six,
or 7 sprint weekends.
six.
So six. So that way you could use it at all your sprint weekends. You use the limitless at one sprint weekend, and you max out your team as we said, and then you use the triple at the next sprint weekend, and then you try and see how many points. So like, yeah, I am excited.
Solid.
So question,
Um,
you'll think
so, mhm,
Charles getting Charles in for this week might
No,
prove to be beneficial because
no.
he started with a 10 points
mhm.
penalty. So as long as he can hold up, he could probably get some good overtaking.
He
He'll
will
probably
get,
get driver of the day if he gets the overtaking. He
Who voting
will.
for that?
and
You,
then
if you tell me Charles start at like 13 and finish 5, he not gonna get driver of the day.
Bro, we could only vote for Alonso. What happened to you, bro? Only Alonso.
and
Bro,
not only that, I honestly I do not want to trust Ferrari with anything. Like I have signs in one of my teams, and right now I just want to get him out
no, I
because
think science is this. I said, ask Kapil. I told Kapil from before this year. I said, I think science is the man to keep from
for Ferrari,
Ferrari. He is the
yes,
man.
but
He is the man.
think about it from a reliability perspective. The very first race of the season, and you already have to change spot before the race. That's worse than Red Bull because Red Bull, both cars failed in the race due to mechanical problems. But after that, they had no issues with the season. But Ferrari's issue started before the race started, like after
No,
quali,
Red Bull
they
had
have to change
issues
spots.
up to the first 4 or 5 races of the season last year.
Okay,
After that, then it
they
was a
settled
big
down,
thing
right?
how
Okay, yes,
reliable
true.
the
Yes,
Red
they
Bull
had a
needed
big
to be
concern
regular
about
reliability.
reliability in the early part of the season, right? And they settled
Yeah.
down. But aside from the what's going on the track for Ferrari, what's something we need to consider, and I was doing some research about it this weekend. Well, this week, sorry. The turmoil that is going on internally at Ferrari since Fred has taken over. So since Fred has taken over and Matteo left, a lot of people left the team as well because Fred has now taken over. So
There
also a
pent up life for Georgie.
there's a political internal struggle going on at Ferrari, and I feel like that is going to affect the team as well because there's a philosophy with racing whereby manufacturers like Mercedes race to sell cars, meaning to say for the popularity to get the name out there and that kind of thing. Whereas Ferrari sells cars to race, meaning to say their primary focus is racing and they are only selling cars so as to afford their ability to race. And with that philosophy, the concern is that the Ferrari owners want to dictate what the race team should do, which is not always in the best interest of the race team. So right now within Ferrari, there's an internal power struggle as to who should be calling these shots at the end of the day. Should it be Fred Vasseur as the F1 as the team principal, or should it be the top bosses at Ferrari? And I think that is where things are happening, and it's trickling down into the race team and possibly the team's morale and their performance.
So okay, back to that. Who we let's finish up this team and wrap up slowly. So who we capped? So we good with this, right? I could press continue.
I think that
Yeah.
was pretty good.
Right? No chips. We good to go. Right? Confirming changes.
No chips. Well, just on the topic of chips, though, Jared, before we wrap things up, there is another of the chips this season is called the no negative chip. So it's like essentially stops any drivers that finish with less than 0 points to not count towards your final score. So for last week, for example, if you had Piastri in your team, Ocon in your team, and they finish with like -10, they would just get 0 for that week and save you, 10 points or however many. So there's a case to be made to use it this week because Jeddah has a high DNF
So much
rate.
DNFs. Right. I love that.
Yeah, so I don't know yet if I'm going to use it because I kind of want to wait a little bit and see how the team and the fantasy landscape shakes out. But if you are concerned about the DNF rate at Saudi Arabia, there's probably no better circuit to use it at. I don't think it may be Silverstone last year because, with that Joe crash, a few guys were wiped off.
Yes.
I think Saudi Arabia had the second most DNFs last season and the second most DNFs.
I think when that could come in beneficial too is, okay, cool, let's say Ferrari improves and they get back to somewhere fighting. It might be safe to play it on a weekend whereby, okay, cool, you're gonna ride it on Ferrari because you realize, okay, cool, the FP1, 2, and 3 has been really strong, top any times on a particular track. So you play it on that weekend, but also then you use that no negative because you know that their reliability is on there.
Yeah, that's true. I just don't know the perfect time to use any of the chips yet.
Yes.
So I'm probably going to wait a couple more weeks and then make a decision.
And it team dependent too, I guess, on what your gut telling you at the time,
Yeah.
But question, is the chips like last year? So that triple, last year we had 2 triples, one for the first half and one for the second half, but it's 1 chip for the whole season.
I think it's 1 for the whole season.
Yeah. Believe
so
it.
wild card as well. I don't think we get 1 in the first half and the second half.
Again, yeah.
So,
do we leave the boost on Max? Are we good with that?
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, everybody good with that.
Actually, based on what happened last weekend, I would say put it on Alonso because Alonso, he may not qualify on pole, but he'll definitely get those overtaken points, which would boost his score.
And another driver of the day, perhaps.
True. Voter pardon.
You're laughing, I know, Alonso.
Yes, Mr. Global Analytical.
No, big up Alonso. Big up
Cool.
Alonso.
Works for me.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So that's the team there. So our team going the team, the panel's team, we have Max, Russell, Alonso, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Red Bull Racing, and Aston Martin. Right. Let us know in the comments if you agree with this, what would you change? And let us know the points that you tallied for the first race. And of course, we are moving into Jeddah. And of course, we can't wait. And there's a lot of DNS. We got a nice chip strategy there from Rob. As we are closing off, just some quick piece of advice. No, something we do on the FPL show. Just a quick piece of advice in terms of fantasy. And then Rob, I'll let you plug your channel as well. So we start with Rob. Just a quick piece of advice and plug your channel. Let people know what you're doing as well on your channel. And make sure you plug it. It'll take a few minutes, Rob. You go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. I
Of
think
course,
my advice is for certainly for new players, don't get too trigger happy with the chips early on. I mean, that's just for me because there are so many new ones and we don't really know how they're going to impact our scores. I will probably hold off, as I said, from using them for a few weeks, certainly at least until the first sprint race. And we've got 4. How many sprint races have we got? 6. I think we have 6 this season, right? So there's a lot of extra points on offer. And I guess to kind of back end that into Kapil's question, there's, you get same points as you get every race week as on top of the points you get in the sprints. So I think I want to just hold off using your chips until at least the first sprint race, because there's a lot of opportunity there to gain rank. And then as for my channel, I mean, Jared, you've already plugged it so much, so very eternally grateful for that. But F1 Fantasy Hub on Twitter and YouTube, I've got my preview going out tomorrow. So check that out on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, man, thanks a lot. Also, Kapil, the thing with the sprint, so the sprint comes like an extra race, because I want to explain to the layman too. It's real dumb, right? For me at least. So, because this is one of the FPL guys, very good in FPL and of cricket fantasy as well. So, he jumped on with us. I'm real grateful and glad. So basically, instead of having qualifying, where you're just trying to make your times, sprint is literally a race for positioning. So they go full pelt out, trying to get positions, not times. So it's literally a race. So you get points for that, and you get a lot of extra points for that. And then on top of that, the race. So that's why it's come like a double game week, right? That's the best way I can explain
It's
it.
actually more like a triple game week, because remember, you get points for quali and then points to the race on a normal weekend.
Yeah.
But on a sprint weekend, you get points to the quali, points to the sprint, and then points to the race. So you have 3 opportunities to get points as opposed to just 2.
Yeah. And you're qualifying for the sprint is for the race. So that's
Yeah, you quali for the sprint, and then the sprint qualies for the race. Yeah.
Right. So that is why we're so happy. And I would have had this conversation with you, Kapil, but I'm glad you hop on and ask again, because that's why we hop on the sprint last season. That's why I did Rob. All these other guys using the chips and stuff, and then I was like, all right, sure. And bam, first sprint. That was the best time to. Well, I mean, for me at that time with my team, it was the best time to sprint. And Michael, any closing advice before we lock off?
I definitely say play it safe for the first few races until it is you see all the team's true colors. I also just want to plug my friend's page as well. It's Heaven Sports Media. That's Anna's new blog.
Oh, nice.
And she's covering F1 and other sports as well. So Heaven Sports Media, you can check it out online.
I'll put it in the description, man. Yeah, I know why again. Also, my classmates. Yes, man.
So yeah, and guys, just pick smart, watch some videos to get some advice, do some research on the track, see who has the potential to score points on the track, and just at the same time, just make sure and have fun. And come check us out at One Woodbrook Place at Island Bed Chill and Grill. Watch your race with us, have some fun, enjoy some good food, maybe a couple drinks, and yeah, we hope to see you on Sunday.
And as we talking content, because Rob, I am not that kind of guy. I don't care. I will always tell people as I'm great. If you're bigger content creators out there, but who I love the most, Rob, I don't know if you know him, F1 Word. Right? I love F1 Word. Because that's what I normally use before I hop on here. F1 Word, it breaks on. But the problem is, now that we're doing his shows on Wednesday, his show doesn't come out until Thursday. Because normally I use his stuff before I come here. So I'll sound smart, because he makes me sound smart. He's brilliant. No, boy. What, 8 minutes, Rob? About 8 minutes his show is, and he breaks down the race and the track and everything brilliantly. Tire strategy, everything. So if for anyone that needs any kind of like a quick synopsis on the tracks, F1 Word. Of course, there are other channels available, but I love to use F1 Word. And of course, we have F1 Fantasy Hub on Twitter as well, too. So be sure to follow Rob on Twitter as well. He does a lot of great threads. So if you're someone like me, quick on the go and just want to get some quick information, the threads are very helpful, and I always retweet them as well. So if you haven't followed him yet, you will see it from my page as well, and you could go and follow him from there. So I want to thank everyone. I don't have anything to say. Michael summed it up well. We, of course, F1. Don't forget tomorrow night, FPL. This was, I don't know, for some people a good double week. For some, it was a disaster. We will break it down tomorrow. Please go to can't wait to discuss that. And yeah, stay tuned for Sunday, our watch along. And we'll see you guys in the next one. May your DRS bonus chip bring in some great points for you, and may your differentials finish in the top 10. And take care. We'll see you all in the next one, guys. Cheers.
Take care, guys. Be safe.
Thanks, guys.